my boss decided to cancel my Christmas break, so I walked away from that job because my family will always come first. When I was a kid, my parents drilled it into me that loyalty and hard work would someday stack zeros onto my paycheck, and I believed them for a long time. I stayed positive even when year after year I only got a measly 3% raise, and kept grinding through every holiday shift. I missed my kids' first steps, their school plays, and so many milestones. Also, I could keep pouring money into the pockets of the CEO. When my stepdad passed away, my boss actually called me during the funeral, while my mom was crying on my shoulder, and told me I needed to fix a work problem right then. That was the moment I decided I had enough. I switched companies and promised myself I'd always put family first, and let my career sit in third or fourth place on the priority list. Now fast forward to today, I've become a key player in my department. A lot of our client processes run on custom AI systems I built from scratch, and I keep a huge library of detailed documentation to support and maintain them. I even offered to train someone else so the company wouldn't be totally dependent on me, but my manager shot that down and said absolutely not. We'd never do anything that might make it easier for you to leave. Life felt pretty good until early December when a government audit hit a company called Redwood Industries, and found they were out of compliance. They hired my firm to clean things up before the end of the year, or they'd be staring down fines of around $750,000. The problem was Redwood kept dragging their feet, and didn't give us the info we needed to start on time. Every year I take the week between Christmas and New Year's off so I can be with my kids and try to make up for all the time work stole from me when they were little. And that time with them means everything to me. For the past 2 weeks I kept reminding both the project manager and my direct manager that I'd be on vacation. And I told them I still needed data from Redwood before I could even begin my part of the job. I offered to work extra hours and finish everything before Christmas Eve, if they could just get me what I needed. Then Tuesday rolls around and my manager calls to say Redwood finally sent the files I'd been asking for more than 2 weeks ago. He sounded defeated because he knew what was coming. I asked him who I should hand things off to since I'd be gone right after Christmas. And he tells me I hate to say this, but I need you to come in during your break. He told me flat out I'm canceling your vacation next week. I asked what happens to my paid time off and he said sorry, you know the rules. It's use it or lose it. I tried fighting for you but HR wouldn't budge. Right after that call I drafted my resignation letter and set it to send automatically Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Now Redwood Industries is about to eat a $700,000 fine because no one else knows how to program or run the system I built, since they refused to let me train a backup. Our other clients are expecting their monthly, quarterly, and yearly reports the first week of January, and nobody has the faintest idea how to generate them. We also had 6 projects mid-development, and those are now dead in the water. 7 different customers already prepaid for AI upgrades and automation scheduled for the first quarter of 2022. And honestly, I have no clue what's going to happen with those contracts. All I can say is this: never forget that family comes first, because the time you lose with them is gone forever. Here's how I see it: that fine might not even matter to Redwood Industries, because for them $700,000 is just a drop in the bucket. They'll either pass the cost on to their clients or just carve it out of the annual bonus pool for their executives. Technically, my own company might even be in breach of contract after I quit, but I'm not a lawyer, and frankly I don't care anymore. My mind is already set on watching The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit trilogy with my kids, since they've never seen those films before, and that's what matters to me. What's funny is every time I ran an analysis or wrote up a forecast, upper management made decisions based on my work, and every single time it ended up putting the company in a better financial spot. When the pandemic first hit, I was the one who suggested we immediately switch to remote work to keep people safe, and they rolled that out instantly. Later I showed them how productivity had jumped across the board, and that convinced leadership to cancel the office lease and go fully remote for good. When the company decided they wanted to support small businesses, I pitched 3 different strategies, personally handled the negotiations, and those partners ended up growing more than 400%, smashing sales records in the process. But this time they didn't listen to me, and it might cost them big. At the end of the day, I get it. Business leaders always ask themselves, are we a small company or a mid-sized one? And that colors every choice they make. Up until this whole vacation mess, I actually had a really solid relationship with my manager. The CEO even helped me move into my new house, so I know my resignation is going to hit the company hard, and that weighed on me a lot. Our client in this case is a huge corporation, and anyone who has worked with big companies knows they drag their feet when it comes to providing data and documents. They move at their own pace and never rush for anyone. I would have been open to a compromise, maybe working half days if I had some support, or even pushing my vacation back to spring break, so I could still spend that time with my kids, but nobody offered me anything like that. All they told me was either use your vacation now or you lose it, no middle ground. For the record, my wife backed me completely. She looked me in the eye and said I'd rather lose the house than lose our family. And that gave me the clarity I needed to know I was making the right choice. My oldest boy is 9, and this will only be the third Christmas I actually get to spend with him. The first 6, including his very first Christmas, I had to work straight through. Most of what I have from those holidays are just photos and shaky videos because I wasn't there in person. I miss both my sons' first steps, their first words, and their first Christmas mornings. And that time is gone forever. No amount of money can buy it back. About that resignation letter, I wrapped up the call with my manager politely, but I still scheduled the email to go out Monday morning at 8 sharp. I didn't want to ruin his holiday weekend by sending it earlier, but I need to make one thing perfectly clear. I never agreed to work next week. My manager flat out told me I had to come in, that I'd lose my vacation, then apologized and wished me a Merry Christmas before moving on to talk about documentation I had left behind. What's funny is I've tried more times than I can count to train other people on my processes, but my manager always brushed it off, saying you're not going anywhere, it would just be a waste of time. The truth is I documented my work 100% from start to finish. Here's a little Easter egg for whoever finds it. In the documentation, if you dig into the app section, there's a full troubleshooting guide. Inside that you'll find a section on corrupted CSV, TXT, and XML files that explains exactly how to roll the environment back to a clean state before reloading. After that, you just load the correct CSV file, and then follow the step-by-step instructions on how to bring everything back up to the latest status without leaving any requests hanging in the system. Here's the update and a quick recap of what went down. My manager told me I had to work the week between Christmas and New Year's, even though I had submitted and gotten approval for that vacation all the way back in July. Our new client had just been hit with a government audit and was staring at a fine for noncompliance, but they ignored my repeated requests for the data we needed until the very last week before Christmas. I chose my family over the company and turned in my resignation the Monday after Christmas. Starting that Monday, my manager tried every trick in the book to get me to change my mind. The CEO even stepped in and piled on the pressure. Meanwhile, another client sent in a corrupted file, and our department processed it, which ended up crashing an entire branch of reports. The contract with that client had a clause about mandatory uptime, and when the reports went offline, it caused panic, because the company owed a penalty for every single hour of downtime, and for every missing report. I threw out several ideas that could have helped us recover faster, but leadership shut them all down. All day long, my manager and the COO bombarded me with calls and messages. Eventually, one of my coworkers dug into my documentation and managed to get the reporting system back up. But later that same day, he got hit with a disciplinary warning. They blamed him for processing the corrupted file in the first place, and for not finding my documentation faster. He told me the HR manager and the COO spent the entire night digging for reasons to justify writing him up. I told him straight up, update your resume, because it's only going to get worse from here. In the end, the total downtime came to about 16 hours. Around 3 in the afternoon, I got a call from a new number, and it turned out to be the business manager on the client's side, the person who acted as the bridge between my old company and theirs. I explained to her how we had been delayed, because the data didn't come in until right before Christmas, even though I'd been asking for weeks, how I lost a full week of paid vacation, how my phone had been blowing up with non-stop calls and texts, and how I had even offered to come back temporarily just to help her company out. That's when she told me something that floored me. She said my manager had already called her earlier and told her I had quit and was holding the project hostage just to squeeze more money out of them. I told her straight up that wasn't true and I wasn't trying to come back. After seeing how the company treated its people and the way they handled me after I resigned, I had zero interest in returning. The business manager asked me what kind of terms it would even take, things like pay rate, a signing bonus, conditions, for me to consider working with my old company again. She said she'd call back in an hour, and told me not to respond to any more texts from my manager or the COO in the meantime. Sure enough, I started getting messages. The COO texted me saying the business manager had called about me and unloaded everything she thought of me. Then my manager chimed in warning me he was pretty sure the business manager was going to try to make me personally cover the penalty fee. About an hour later, the business manager called back on a conference line and asked me what exactly I needed to finish the project. Software, data, access, all of it. I laid out the whole list and answered a few other questions she had about the system. That's when she laid her plan out for me. She said, we're going to offer you a contract to finish this project by the end of the year, and we'll pay you double the hourly rate you asked for. If you can get it done before December 31st, we'll also throw in a completion bonus. After New Year's, we'll look at our staffing situation and maybe bring you on board, but no guarantees, especially if the project isn't wrapped up. I agreed to her terms and told her I needed everything in writing, and that I could start as soon as I got access to a virtual machine. She said that wouldn't be a problem. The lawyers had already reviewed the contract and found a clause that said if my old company failed to meet its obligations, they could legally outsource it to a third party and bill my old employer for the cost. All she needed was an official statement from them admitting they couldn't deliver, and then she could push the bill straight back to them while paying me for the work.